Hello everyone and welcome back to part 3 of the Slyvanian Families Applewood Cottage makeover. And this week I will be making over the facade of the house, or the cladding. So let's get straight into it. So the first thing I did was have a look online and see what other dollhouse creators were using for their brickwork and stonework on their houses, and they were using egg cartons. Was quite popular because it's such a textural paper, so I decided to do a few swatches of different designs. As you can see, I tried out bricks and I painted some white, which I thought was going to be my finished colour, and I painted some grey. I also wanted to try and kind of do a maybe cracked plastery effect, like an old style house that has some render on it. I also did some irregular stones, which I wasn't really a fan of. I thought it was a little bit too out there, too much like a wall. And I did irregular stones but kind of smushed together more. And I also did this one, which is irregular stones but in a brick style pattern. So in the end I decided to go for a brick style shape but torn around the edges, so more irregular. So the first step I had to do was get myself an egg box. Now these ones we have are green, but grey would be preferable because then you don't have to do so much painting over the top. To quicken this process, I decided to make long strips. Once I got long enough strips that were irregular and rough on both edges, I decided to rip them up to the miniature brick sizes. I made sure to get a lot of different shapes here, so I had a lot more options when fitting all the pieces together. I also decided to get a bit more variety and do a few bricks that had a smooth edge and a rough edge, so I varied it up a bit with some scissor work as well. And now I had a lovely little pile of thin strips, thicker strips, rougher strips, all sorts of strips, and decided to just cut a few, tear a few, get a load of different shapes and sizes, lengths, all sorts. So we have lots of little irregular rocks. So as you can see, two different styles to give some variety when we go put them onto the house. And it was time to get to work. So this is the house as it is. Before I did anything to it, it's just plastic, just yellow plastic, and it has a little pattern on it already. So I decided to lay them out how I thought would work well. But before that, I decided to quickly add in a window lintel, which is what you see on old cottages. I think they use them in regular architecture still. They're just to support the window, but on old cottages made of stone, they would be more visible. So I thought that would give it more of a cute cottagey look. So I did that, added a piece on the bottom and continued on around the arch as well to give it a more realistic look. To do this, I just used PVA glue and really saturated the base that I was sticking on, saturated the bottom half, and then went over with glue on top. So after completing that, I just went ahead and started to do the main stonework, and I just did straight lines all along and then started to work up in an offset pattern like you see in regular bricks, and just gradually fitted them in where I felt they needed to go. This is fairly easy to do, but if you are lacking in patience, I might suggest another thing for you instead, because this took a long time. About, I'd say maybe 4 days, you know, on and off. Yeah, it took a long time. But this is how it turned out. I thought the texture looked so good and perfect. So I was ready to go into the next stage, which was to paint it. Now, I wasn't sure which route to go, whether to just paint it white or do for a more sandstone look, but I ended up deciding to do the more difficult route, which is the sandstone route. So next stage was to just give it a base coat. I decided to go for this old paint that was lying in the shed. Looked like milk, smelt disgusting, but you know, it's fine. I'm not going to use up fancy acrylics for this, so just something to get some paint on there, and just painted it all white. I thought this would take up a lot more paint than it actually did, but it was fine. 1 to 2 coats covered up all that green tinge from the egg boxes, and I really did like the way this looked, but I kind of wanted to challenge myself, and I decided to do this more natural stone look. So the first thing I did was mix up some yellow and white, ochre I think, and do a wash all over with yellowy white. Then I mixed up some pale browns, some tans, some dark browns, and mixed with white, and just dabbed over little stones and giving it a abstract-y kind of thing, different stone colours everywhere. I also went in with dark brown wash, quite a light wash, and went into the cracks and where there would be shadows, like under the shutters, and just in places where needed more definition. I also, I went in like here, just around the edges quite nicely, and if you use the wash you can then go in with a tissue and just dab away, so you really do get in the creases but you're not decolouring the stones too much. And then I went in with a white to highlight the stones. So I just kept doing this over and over, adding in greys, warm, cool tones. I also went in with dry brush technique to give more texture to the stones. You can also flick paint onto them if you want to. Then the next thing I thought of was to weather. Now some people use specific pigments for this, or they can use pastels, but I didn't have any, so I decided to use an eyeshadow palette, and I just kind of crumble it up with a harsh brush and just go in and weather. I did this bit a bit too dark, but it's just, you know, you can see it there. So yeah, just go in with sort of different browny shades, and it kind of acts a bit like grout in a way. So I just did that all over as well, and just kept going back in over and over and over with different tones until I felt it looked correct, and this is how it was looking. So about a week later we can get to the reveal. So this is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after. So amazing results with this technique. I really recommend you to go and use this technique if you're doing doll's house. You could do all sorts of colours with this. You can do brick red, you could do grey stone, you can do like a more sandy limestone like I did, or just paint it plain white. I really love how the effect come out. When you look back from it, it looks really cool. So I'm really happy with that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got some tips, give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.